Hello, everybody. This is Duffy, and this is episode number 26. Today, I'm going to do kind of a bookend of the episode that I did prior to KubeCon, which is a KubeCon wrap-up. We're going to go through some of the amazing things that we saw, some of the kind of talk about like how it went. I do get that question a lot, but I will start off by saying it was incredible. You know, I didn't realize how much I needed the connection with so many folks inside of the community. To be in person with many of them was just was really something I definitely needed to do, and I thought that was incredible. So let's take a look at our news today. So these notes are, of course, online as they usually are. So you can find these notes by going to HackMD Echo Live. I'll put a link into the chat. And you can also find them just by going to, I'm in the wrong page here. Here we go. Noel, Khalid, good to see you both. Thanks for tuning in. So here's a link to the notes for today. We got Noel saying hi. We got Khalid saying hi. And Marcos, it's Jed. You know what? I always I think I know that's your name, and I still forget it pretty often. How's it going in Seattle? Good to see you. Awesome. All right. So this week, I mean, the trip was kind of exciting. I had a great time, but I kind of wanted to get started by just talking about taking it day by day and talking through how that went. How you doing, Jukka? Good to see you in Finland. Welcome. So it started on Sunday for me. I was supposed to fly down to LA and arrive there Sunday night so that I could be ready for Monday morning, the eBPF day, and that did not work out. I got caught up in the whole Southwest thing, and so I ended up driving road trip, basically went from the terminal at Oakland Airport over to the car rental place and was like, I need a car, and I drove the 5 hours to LA. Because I figured, you know what, I know for sure I'll be there in 5 hours. Otherwise, I would probably be playing around airplane lottery for 4 hours and still not get there in time. So I decided, let's cut to the chase and just, crank up the music and drive to LA. So made it in about 5 hours, 4.5 of which were at the speed limit or just a little above. And the last half an hour of which, once you got into the LA basin, was traffic the whole way. But it wasn't too bad. It was great. So we started off on Monday morning with October 11th with Cloud Native eBPF Day, and that actually went incredibly well. We had about 30 people max in the room at a given time, and we had quite a bigger number virtually. As the transparency reports come out for all of these events, I'm sure that you'll see me posting them, and we'll also talk about them. But the CNCF is actually very good about posting transparency reports that describe a number of really interesting metrics about the shows, like how many people in person, how many people virtually, how many people attended the different sessions and that sort of stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. That stuff is going to be coming out real soon. The eBPF Day was everything that we hoped it would be. We had such an amazing group of speakers. And we started out with Jana Dogan talking about eBPF and microservices observability. This was an updated presentation from the one that they gave at the eBPF Summit, and I thought that was incredibly good. During the welcome and opening, a bunch of us got on. We had the 6th panel, and it was actually, I was worried about how this would go because it was 6 people, 4 of which were in the room at KubeCon, and 2 of which were in Switzerland and London. So we had Thomas and Liz in Switzerland and London, and that actually just worked out. So technically, okay, cool. Bill just tweeted that the report is out. Great. Thank you, Noel. I didn't see that. So I'll go ahead and check that out. But that should give us some sense of what it looks like from the virtual attendee and the physical attendee perspective. So the sessions were, like I said, and totally great. We did a 6th panel, why everyone is interested in eBPF. And then we did a number of other really great talks that will be recorded. And remember that just like last time, if you have your schedule set up and you've selected talks from this eBPF day or anything else like it, or if you want to just wait for the YouTube playlist, as soon as the YouTube playlist comes out, you will see them there. You'll either see the talks linked in the sessions once the talks are put up, or you'll be able to just catch them on the YouTube playlist. But I definitely recommend checking them out. We had an incredible sessions. One of my favorite talks was actually by Derek Parker, and it took me a little while to get my brain around what's happening here, but Derek is one of the inventors of Delve. In fact, I think it was his original idea, like way back. He decided to kind of like write a Go debugger, and it was called Delve. And so Derek has actually been working on bringing eBPF and Delve together, like basically rewriting or re-instrumenting some of the tooling in Delve to use eBPF. And folks who have been playing with eBPF for observability and profiling and applications and stuff know that you need like BPF type data. You need like object data. And the way that he's actually gone about creating that BTF, kind of a mapping between those functions that he is able to discover in the code base when you're using Delve, and mapping that to BTF data so that it can be referenced, is actually pretty darn cool. So it's a really incredible talk. I got a lot out of it. And I hope that you decide to check it out as well. Of course, Kyle Quest was with us, and he'd spent a bit of time talking about kubectl trace and different BPF libraries. And I think I'm going to have Kyle on here at eCHO office hours, and we're going to get a little more into depth there. Kyle's also putting together a new blog post and gathering people from the eBPF community, of which you are some. So if you're interested in participating in that, jump into the slack.ebpf.io, into the docs channel, and you'll be able to contribute directly to that. And this is basically like a 50 Shades of Go kind of presentation. And the idea is to kind of like highlight those gotchas and those sorts of things that people run into, and kind of open people's eyes into like how to do some of the challenges. And Kyle's with us today. How you doing, Kyle? One of the other highlights of my time was actually spending time with Kyle. We had breakfast together and like just talked about like a number of different challenges around eBPF libraries and the code bases that are around today. So, and he covered a lot of that in his talk. So definitely come check it out. We also had Melissa Kilby and Eric Sage, and it was a trippy one because Melissa was in person and Eric was remote, and they kind of went back and forth a little bit. And the session was really good on eBPF for kernel security monitoring, leveraging Falco. The other one, yeah. So, I mean, we had a number of really great talks. I'm not going to spend too much more time on these, but all of the talks I thought were just amazing, and we're going to do more next year. A couple of the things I noticed this year that I wanted to try and improve for next year. This year was like one of the first big hybrid events that we were attempting as a community, right? And that meant that that in the eBPF room, we were kind of going back and forth between like a viewing party where everybody was watching the talk and an in-person live talk, which I thought was actually pretty good. But the challenge of that was that sometimes when the recorded talk would play, at the end of that recorded talk, there was no connection with the people who were like doing that had made the presentation. Like they didn't feel connected to the room. They were like looking at text and answering questions live, reading the question and providing the answer that way. But they didn't have any idea that there were people in a room somewhere, right? And so I felt like that's something that we needed to fix up. Outside of that, though, I think overall it went really well. It was a good experiment, and I think we've learned a lot. And I also noticed that even just from the numbers that I had seen kind of in the inside, there were a ton of people virtually. So it looks like, sweet. Mr. Bill Mulligan has given us a quick peek into how things went. 23,164 attendees, 66%. Oh, wow. 66% first-time attendees. I did see a number of people for the first time, which I thought was really good. 158 media and analysts, 12 Co-located events, 17 sponsored co-located events, 70. We need to do better here. Like 12% women, 1% non-gender. This is, yeah, we got to do better than this. Attendees per region, 57% were here in the US, and a bunch were from Asia, Europe, and also some other places. We need to get better representation. Top 3 countries represented: US, India, and Canada. Gender minority speakers, 24%. That's awesome. Of gender minority keynote speakers, 46%. So getting better there. CFP acceptance rate was 14%, and end user talks were 27%. Nice. So, I mean, it's coming up. I think that actually what I wanted to see in this, and I think it'll be a part of the transparency document, is the document that actually describes like how many folks were there virtually. Well, welcome again. I'm glad I actually ran into a bunch of people for the first time, and that was actually one of the bigger takeaways for me for KubeCon this year, was that, you know, given how many people were there in person, and it really wasn't that many, I never really felt like I was in a crowded space, like at any point, except possibly in a restaurant. But generally, like I would say that like I never once felt like it was a crowded spot. And even the restaurants they picked had like outdoor areas and things like that. And so it was actually really good. Hello, good to see you. But what I was going to say was, because we had like, you know, only about 3,500 people max, I think maybe it was like, according to that, it was actually less than that. It was like 23,000. I don't know if that's the total gate, or if that's virtual and in person. But really, it didn't feel like in person. It felt like more like 3,400, 3,500, something in there. And what that meant was that we all had time to actually spend with each other. Right. And so it meant that, like, unlike some of the KubeCons, like I remember in KubeCon San Diego, there were any number of people who would come up and say, "Hey, I want to say hello and have a chat." And I'd be like, "I'm on my way to do a thing, but I will come back." And like sometimes I would actually manage to come back and connect with that person, and sometimes I only had like a few seconds. I never had that feeling here at KubeCon because of the way the attendance was working. I definitely felt like myself, and actually I saw a number of other friends who were also expressing the same thing. We really had time to actually connect with each other at this KubeCon, which is incredible and super important. The other one that was exciting, and just like I talked about in the pre-KubeCon Select, was the Supply Chain Security Con North America. It was right next door to us, and I could tell they were having a great time. And it was a lot of the folks from the Chain Guard, the new company by a number of really good friends. So definitely check the videos out there if you're interested in supply chain security, and also follow Chain Guard. They're gonna be doing all kinds of good, exciting things in that space. I was a part of the Cloud Native Security Conference, and I actually managed to wanted to show you this real quick. So inside of the CNCF Slack, there are going to be a number of playlists. And this is actually, these playlists are going to be where you're going to be able to find the videos when they post, right? So if you go to the CNCF channel inside of the Slack, you're going to find this stuff in here. What I'm looking for. Nice. So this was the first one, and I didn't know they had like such an incredible audience. They've got Gab Smash, they've got Andy Martin, of course, Alyssa Miller, Mark Manning, just a bunch of different people, like really amazing people in our community, like participating in this first episode, or the first part of the security, or the Cloud Native Security Capture the Flag. And so if you're interested in seeing how these folks live solve a puzzle like this, definitely come check this out. Like, I'll put a link in there right here underneath the. But yeah, like the audience for that first one was huge, right? I mean, like the people they had in the room doing a live solve of these puzzles was incredible. And then in the second one, it was actually a bunch of us as well, and I got to be a part of it. And I was actually broadcasting from the booth, and so I was actually I helped drive this one, and I do feel like I was kind of driving the conversation a little hard myself. So I kind of wish I wasn't. I wish it wasn't. I wish I hadn't spent as much time talking, but I was totally so close to solving this particular challenge. It was really fun. So definitely check these out. And then also in this playlist, the Cloud Native TV at KubeCon Cloud Native North America, you're going to find the daily wrap-ups. And we talk a lot. And inside of here, there are a number of really great videos that were shot live on site. And so if you want to like dig into like what happened on a day-to-day basis, this whole playlist is for you. On the 13th through the 15th, I spent a bunch of my time at the booth. And I have to tell you that one of the things that really struck me, I think probably the hardest was, and it's not surprising, like I said, it's about 3,500 people. And I would say that a good number of those people that were present were either working in the infrastructure space, either as part of teams for large companies, what have you, or vendors, or people who are working in our community already, who already have a really good sense of like how infrastructure works and that sort of stuff. But one of the big takeaways for me was that like I'm so used to being in a situation where when I go to work for a new company like Isovalent, that I spend a lot of my time telling people why and telling people what I do, why what I'm working on is so interesting and why it's so cool, and why it's important to them and why they should be paying attention and that kind of stuff. And I mean, I love that part of it. I enjoy having, helping people level up in that way. It's one of the things I love to do. However, at KubeCon, it was amazing. I'd be standing at the booth and like a number of people came by to chat, and almost all of them had already had a strong opinion about eBPF and like how it worked, right? And like what was so interesting about it. Now, whether they had like the entire context correct, or whether they had like, they understood like how Cilium worked with it, or how we were actually leveraging it to do all of the things that we do there. That was actually like I spent a good amount of time like clarifying that and talking about like what we were building and what we were delivering on in 1.10 and all of those other wonderful things. But honestly, like almost everyone had an opinion on eBPF and why it was already and why they were already very excited about it. So I thought, for the eCHO live stream, that was a huge thing. I just really, really enjoyed that. Like so many people were already so excited. It really felt like in some ways that eBPF had reached that zeitgeist, Hey, David, good to see you. So that was pretty exciting, and it was really kind of fun doing demonstrations around like, how we're using eBPF to handle like networking and load balancing and multi-cluster mesh and all of the other awesome things. And I think that like one of the ways I liked talking about it, which I thought like really helped people kind of connect eBPF to the way that we're actually doing things at Isovalent on Cilium and generally in the eBPF world, was that like normally when you think about a CNI, a container network interface, when you think about how that container network interface works, the way to think about it generally is that when you create a new pod, that pod is going to get an interface, and that interface, and then some underlying plumbing is going to happen, and we're going to associate that interface with a VETH pair, one that's connected to the host side, and we're going to like maybe set up some IP tables to secure traffic to that other side of the VETH pair, and we're going to set up routes that allow communication between that pod and other pods using that VETH pair, and that's generally how it works. With Cilium, we start in a different place, right? With Cilium, we start as soon as the application makes it a connect call. While we still give it an IP address and it still has a VETH, we still need to get those packets like in and out of the underlying routing stack and all that stuff. We actually do quite a bit more before that packet traverses down to that routing path, right? We make a real decision. We make a bunch of really informed decisions about what to do with that traffic before it even leaves kernel space. So as soon as that, if you're like on the curl command, or if you're like, making a connection to your memcache, your Redis DB, what have you, as soon as that connect call happens, we intercept it with eBPF, and then we determine what to do with it. And we do that like, basically at the application layer in the kernel, right? So we can say like, this connect call is actually we can determine what the destination of that connect call is. It's another pod on the same host. So we can shortcut that traffic. We can just kick it right over to the network stack that's on the other side of the link, right? Or maybe they have disabled kubeproxy in their cluster and they're leveraging eBPF to replace kubeproxy. So then we can make more informed decisions about what to do there, right? Instead of actually passing this packet through IP tables rules forever and ever while they converge, or maybe they haven't yet converged, we just make the decision. You know what? Here's the healthy endpoints behind that service. I know the identity of the pod. I know the service that it's going to. I determine the identity of the pod that I'm going to send this traffic to, and I manipulate the packet so that the destination IP is that destination pod, and then I send it on its way. Right? Like this, and we're doing all of this in the eBPF. And I feel like that explanation really helped people kind of connect to it, which I thought was really good. I spent a bunch of time with Geese, like whether I did that as part of the security day or just generally. There was a bunch of people who are like really, really excited about hacking and security and Kubernetes and all we're doing to secure these things. And it was just incredible just to connect with so many people in the community and like have real conversations with them. So I very much enjoyed that. I was a big part of it. And we talked about the booth time thing. That was also really great. I also spent a good amount of time in Slack. And it was really great to see how many people were there in person, who were spending their day like in Slack participating. The hallway track was on fire. There were lots of really great sessions involved there. I wish I had more time to spend more in each of them, but I know that like we were doing a decent job of really welcoming all of those first-time users, whether they are first time virtually or first time in person. So overall, I thought it was just incredible, and the first season of Cloud Native TV is wrapped, and we're going to be clicking off Cloud Native TV again sometime in November. We're taking a look at what the next series of shows is going to look like, and we're going to get something going there. So if you haven't checked it out already, Cloud Native TV has a number of really great presentations and shows that we were doing kind of leading up to KubeCon. Finally, next up on eCHO, not next week, but the week after, the next time I host eCHO, actually I probably could find out what's happening next time Liz hosts eCHO, but in the next eCHO that I'm hosting, I'll be joined by Aditi and Martinez, who will be joining us to talk about PWRU. And I wanted to show you what that looks like. This is actually a really interesting tool. So this comes from like troubleshooting the eBPF layer and networking and that kind of stuff. And I think it's a pretty fun one. PWRU stands for Packet Where Are You? And I love the subtext. Detective Gopher is looking for packet traces left by eBPF-B. And the way that we're obviously going to dig into this in detail when we meet in 2 weeks, but what this is doing is it's actually trying to determine, based on some criteria like the destination IP or the destination port, and we're actually trying to determine like what's actually happening with the packet through the kernel process. So, pretty cool tool. If this is something that's interesting to you, it might be helpful to kind of dig in and see how this works. And if you tune in 2 weeks, you're going to get to see a live demonstration, and we're going to dig right into the details of how all of that is working. So definitely come on back and check it out. In the meantime, if any of you are working on anything that you would like to come and help present here on, or come present here on eCHO live with me, come on down and let me know. You can hit me up on Twitter or on Slack or anywhere else, and we can schedule the week that you will present, and I will be happy to field questions for you and help you get ready and do all of that wonderful stuff. Lastly, one of the things that we've been playing with, I'm not sure how many of you have like gone through the documentation at the Kubernetes documentation, but there was for a long time a project called Katacoda. And Katacoda was tooling that allowed you to kind of generate a sort of a tool. Jason, good to see you. One of my coworkers from the Heptio days. Good to see you, Jason. So Katacoda was a tool that where you could like create. I think it's actually still a website. Let's go see if it's there still. Katacoda. Katacoda has a bunch of free resources for like learning different things. However, they're not really taking on new courses. They've kind of stopped taking on new courses, and it means that like you can't really develop like a newer course for this sort of stuff, or so it would seem. So what we decided to do at Isovalent is try something new. This play instruct.isovalent piece, and it's very similar. And inside of here, we have actually generated the first part of the content, which is Asilium getting started. And if it's something you're interested in, this was authored by Liz and Roland, Jed Salazar, of course, who's on the call, and Chris Luciano is also on the call. And so if you wanted to come and give this a try and just play around and see what you think and provide us feedback, that would be great. But I know that we're looking to get more people feedback on how this feels and looks and whether it's working for folks. So if you do have time, sometime over the weekend maybe to play with it, just let me know. Or actually just play with it because the link's right there in the HackMD. And again, the HackMD is hackmd.io/echo-live. And you can just click right through there. It's a limited admission. If you're not able to get in, let me know. I'm sure I can get another link for you. Just hit me up on Twitter or in Slack, and I'll make sure you get access. But we walk through a couple of different simple use cases. So give it a try if it's something you're interested in. And yeah, I think, other talks I was actually a part of. So that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. So I was part of the SIG Security Day. I also helped, I was also part of a talk with Ian Coldwater, Brad Giesman, right, and Rory McCune. And Rory was not able to be in person, so we ended up with a recorded talk. And that talk it will be up soon. But it was wild because what ended up happening was that the room where our talk would be presented, we were presented right after Brad and Ian being in the same room doing a live talk. And it was a stark reminder that, like, when you're in person, you get so much more energy from the audience when you're doing your presentation than when you are trying to record a talk, especially with like three other people, three other brilliant people, but three other people that you're trying to record a talk with. It's like you can really only do so much to really create that effect, right? But yeah, so like we saw the live talk and then we saw the recorded talk, and I was like, all right, I want to do better next time. And really, I just want to do like more live talks. I think that would be good. But that happened, and then also we had Aditi and Martinez actually presenting on PWRU at KubeCon, and then we had Tabitha Sable and Ellen Corbs doing really. So I thought there was actually going to be a live talk, and it turned out to be something more of a live performance. So because Ellen was in Germany and Tabitha was right there in San Diego, right there in LA with the rest of us. And so that was incredible. It was an honor to see Stephen Augustus up there just killing it as a chair of the KubeCon, and I think he did a wonderful job. Awesome to see Jasmine and Carmen, or so many other wonderful folks. Just tremendous job all around. It was awesome. So I hope you found this session on both the pre-KubeCon and also post-KubeCon session helpful. But let me know if you don't, and let me know if you have something that you would like to come and be a part of here as part of a presentation on Echo Office Hours. We're always looking for more folks, and I'm always looking for people who are like doing some exploration or some interesting work in eBPF, and we're going to dig more into it. Coming up later, I think later in the year, maybe in November, I'm planning on actually also having Derek Parker come join me and do a little more deep dive into how to go delve in eBPF is working. I think that'll be a really fun presentation. I've mentioned that we're going to have Kyle on to do a little more kind of hands-on playing with things. We are starting to put together kind of like more of a CTF around eBPF and like thinking about how that will work, possibly involving that in Valencia. Yeah, that's the news. That's the news this week. And I hope you all have an incredible weekend. And I hope that you're all doing super, super well. I look forward to when the videos come out, and I hope that you are also looking forward to that. So I'll see you in 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks we will be joined by Martinez and Aditi. So I'm really looking forward to that. Have a great weekend.